I wouldn't call myself that I was like a hoodlum, but I was kind of like, like I would go to the bad areas sometimes just because like some of my friends used to live there, and I'd go there just to hang out and maybe like smoke a joint or something, you know what I mean, or like have a beer outside, which is you're not supposed to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking I'm like 18, 17, 19, like around these ages.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time we were I was with my other friend, Ecuadorian guy too, right? Like the ponytail and everything. So we were drinking in the park, and the cops. It's actually around where I live. There's a park called Fairbank Park.
Mm-hmm.
So the police came. They parked at the top of the park, and they walked down to us, and they questioned us. They're like, "What are you guys doing here? Are you guys loitering?" So you know how like when the police questions you, some people tend to be aggressive right from the beginning. I wasn't aggressive. I answered them politely and everything, but I noticed that my friend was like at the start, he was just very aggressive, like he was giving them attitude, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I'm thinking to my head, like, if we want these guys to interact with us and then leave, why are you giving them attitude, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, you don't have to be like that, right? But then again, I don't know what kind of experiences he's had in the past with them. So what ended up happening was they ended up roughing up my friend because he was giving them attitude, and me, I got off kind of scot-free. They were like, "Yeah, do you have anything on you?" Like, they were just basically talking to me while my friend was getting thrown to the ground. He was getting put up against the swing or whatever, because we were by the playground.
Mm-hmm.
And he was insulting them. He was swearing at them, and like because one of them was Asian, one was a white cop, and he was like calling the cop name, like derogatory names. So, and pretty much the whole time I was looking at him and I was like, man, why don't you just, be quiet or something, like shut up, like, excuse my language, right? And then he was like angry, right? He didn't listen to me, and he said he was going to sue them and like he'll find them. I was like, man, if you didn't escalate it to that point, they would have just talked to us and asked us a few questions and left, you know what I mean? What the situation was they were looking for people or somebody that committed a crime in the area around us. Or that's what they said, at least, right? And they came up to us and questioned if we seen anybody there. And I answered, I didn't see nobody. My friend was like, why did you have to come up to us? Why did you do this? So it's kind of like, it escalated to a point I didn't need to just because of his actions, So sometimes when those things happen, I think it's both sides. That's what I was getting at with that. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of times with these situations. Like, it's not one side or the other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little of both.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that, man. What do you think, Taz?
Yeah, I think both sides play a role in what's going on, but how do I explain this? It's going to take a lot to at least reverse this systemic racism and so forth. So, probably suggest people to sign petitions, what else? Engage in peaceful protest. Find like positive ways to evoke change instead of just fighting back with violence. That's all I can say pretty much. To sum up, I think unless Victor wants to add something on top of that.
So I was chatting with a friend. I was about to like do an interview of it, but like I had technical difficulties that didn't work out. But we did chat about like the different experiences of racialization and discrimination and stuff like that. And something I really wanted to share, just to kind of like have something to chew on, is how can any, I don't know if we can call them, I'll just say it, race really kind of bring themselves forward, right? To not play the whole cultural legibility game, right? It's basically like, at every extent, anybody that comes here, they'll try to make themselves more legible to the people that are kind of like deemed the dominant culture, right? So it's like, how does one really get true equality? And I really think the only way is just to eliminate any one side or one person or whatever having privilege, having racial privilege, right? I mean, there's always going to be other levels of oppression, be it socioeconomic status, right? Cultural capital. This term I just recently heard is just basically stuff that people pick up along the way and that helps them kind of build up momentum, right? Like somebody in music obviously has to be musically inclined, but like have a certain vibe to them, and different professions and so on and so forth. Right? So I guess, long story short, I really feel like there's got to be enough of this like othering of people that have lived in a North American society for so long, where, say, for example, me, if I were to go to a bunch of Chileans, they're like, you know what, you're not Chilean enough. Right? So it creates a bit of a void of like, where do these people go? Right? And so once we can eliminate that notion of, like dark versus light, north versus south. And if I just see a Chilean or South American, just be like, hey, you're Chilean, welcome. Right? And I guess just to shoot for freedom of cultural expression and social mobility. Because I really think that's what keeps, especially, the BLM movement, right? I really think that's what keeps it down. There's so many subsects and they're against each other.
Yeah, man, I see that a lot as well. It's kind of like, you know what, sometimes they get a bad rap. Like, pretty much, like, you see all these things that are happening around, the peaceful protests and all those things that are happening that's all positive, right? But then you have, like you just said, subsets who are, like, vandalizing and destroying people's businesses. Like, how is that, like, good? You know what I mean? Like, that, if anything, I think that's hurting the community and hurting their image, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and that's why I think, honestly, the protests that happened here downtown, they were, in my eyes, a great success.
Yes,
because, there was a bit of a heavier police presence, but they were all there to show, is like, hey, you know what, we're here for you guys. Right?
Exactly.
And there was some fool, I don't know if I sent you guys, like, media about it. This fool, he went dressed up in blackface. Like, painted up.
I actually did see that.
Damn fool. And I'm so glad they arrested him right away. They dragged him off, screaming and kicking, because, like, you don't go and do that to a Black Lives Matter rally. Like that's so obviously, one,
it's very uncalled for,
trying to dilute the purpose.
To get a fight.
Right? And that's what a lot of people, like, I could hear a lot of chatter here on, like, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that, like, hey, will people plant, saboteurs into the protests? Will they plant people that just behave like jerks to discredit the movement? Right?
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that people think that that's okay to do,
Yeah, and
you're always gonna have people like that are trying to disturb the peace like that. Because I heard a saying one time, I'm not sure, I forgot who said it, but it was a saying that said, "You're gonna always disturb the peace of others if you're not at peace with yourself." And I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're at peace with yourself, you're not gonna want to disturb the peace of others because you know how hard that is to attain for yourself,
Yeah. Don't spit in the sky on a windy day,
So transitioning, what do you guys think of all this COVID, like people gathering and like now there's groups of 10 allowed, and like I honestly think it's a good thing because I think it's trying to get people out again, and like people like right now it's very hard for people to stay indoors just because of the fact that like the weather is getting nicer. They know there's a virus pandemic out there, but I think like people are just itching to get out there, right? I saw someone say that, you know how they had all those people at Trinity Bellwoods, like thousands or whatever it was? They said that the cases didn't rise after that. So that means that people should be out. But, you know, I mean, maybe they got lucky. Who knows, right? Or maybe some of them did have it and they didn't tell nobody, right? So what do you guys think about all that? Like, just people gathering in groups and then starting to, like, open, like, you know, be more leisure, like, be more light with all the openings, right? And, like, social distancing and stuff like that. Because it's pretty much the same everywhere, in most places, right?
Yeah.
I think it's good if they slowly ease it back into into the normal life thing. But you can't have just can't just be instant. It slowly has to be like slowly phased in. And I think people need to be social with one another, but taking preventative measures. And yeah, I think that's it.
What's up?
Yeah, Victor, your thoughts on that?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The question is, like, what do you think of all, like, the just people gathering for COVID and, like, them, like, not even just gathering, like, just, like, you know, they're starting to lighten things up now because they say the cases are down, but a lot of people aren't taking the proper precautions, but they don't, because they're saying that that it's not what everyone's making it out to be, and, like, just pretty much them loosening things up for summer, right, to get people going again. What do you think about all that?
Well, I mean, thankfully, when I do get my medical advice, I go to a doctor. You know, I don't go to YouTube. I don't really ascribe to a lot of these theories of it being phony or man-made or a social experiment, because facts indicate people have died, right?
Yep.
So it's like, I think it's a good thing though, because it's very progressive, because we're taking a slice of I guess just more like social theory that other countries have tried. You know, like I think it was New Zealand that started that whole 10-person bubble. And I think that's where the 10-person number comes. It becomes important to know what it means. Right? So they're saying 10 family members. And these are the people that you can hug and kiss and whatever. Right? You can embrace as family. So I think it's good as long as the only challenge will be keeping everybody to within their bubble, which I don't think will happen, because we've already seen issues with compliance, right? People need drastic measures so they know, okay, I should spread myself out a bit, right? But I mean, it was something that was going to happen. Either it was going to happen before or after people went and tried their luck, right? So for me, it was more just a matter of when as opposed to if. And I really think it's good, man. I really think it's good because people are starting to get cabin fever, man. People are starting to, like, they're all cooped up, and they're all, some of them, you know, the comical image of somebody just, like, sitting out on their porch or balcony, phone at the ready to call the hotline, you know?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because, like, when you see these things, right, where when they were saying before, you gotta have, like, people from the same family or something like that. I was thinking, like, how are they gonna keep track of all that, right? They're gonna go to everyone and be like, can I see that you guys have the same last name from the same bill? Can I see a bill? Can I see a driver's license? You know what I mean? How do you, like, there's no way you, put it this way, there's no way you can keep track of that when there's, like, a crowd of, like, 1,000 people. You know what I mean? You already lost the crowd there. Like, I'm just talking specifically about that Trinity Bellwood situation. There was a lot of people.
I think, honestly, if they can make...
Like, how are you keeping track of people?
They gotta bottleneck it. They gotta bottleneck it and have it fenced up, and then have it so that there's only one entrance, and you have people there